As Sonia mentioned, my history from an education standpoint is really in both Western and Eastern natural medicines, and so I brought that to the development of these two products, and from a clinical perspective, really used this mindset of working with people in as natural a way as possible to help extend and found great health utilizing good nutrition and good supplementation. Let's move that again. We're certainly going to talk about these products and the great science behind them, and so the presentation is science based. But I do want to say that this really is a love story, and it began years ago when my now business partner Brundy Brody gave birth to her son Canute, and Canute was born with lots and lots of health issues that created many problems for him developmentally. And one of the things that we discovered was that his little body was not producing enough of this very specific special calcium regulated enzyme called calcium ATPase. And that discovery led us on a long journey of discovery to ultimately bring us to the point where we developed the ReStor Silver product. So we'll be talking about how it impacted him and how that furthered our understanding of what we were doing as we go along. ReStor Silver is the first of the products that we developed. It's what came out of this research that we did initially, just to work on helping Canute move past to the very early stages of his life with all of the problems that he was having. This is a patented supplement. It's the only one of its kind that is specifically targeted to improving cellular health with helping to support calcium ATPase production in the body. And it is an exclusive product for NHT Global. We have that relationship with NHT, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along this evening. Let's talk about how it works. The science behind this is fascinating, and Antonella is right here to kick me in the shin as I get delving too deeply in it, because I do get passionate about the science. It's so important to understand and appreciate that this product is backed by really solid science, and so it gets me excited, and I tend to carry on. Let's begin by talking about our muscles and the three types of muscles in our body, because that's where Canute first gave us the clue that this is what we should begin looking for when he was unable to meet his milestones of being able to hold his head up or pushing stuff up from the floor, because his muscles were just too weak to do that. He would do just the least little bit of effort and then just be exhausted and not be able to continue, have to rest for a while. And so that started us looking for something having to do with muscles as being something that we might be able to address. So there are three types of muscles. The first type, the one that we think mostly about when we talk and think about muscles, are our skeletal muscles. These are attached from bone to bone, and when we contract them, they use those bones as levers to cause us to be able to move around to do our work and play. And so that skeletal muscle is an area that we can easily see when things go wrong, that we've got greater fatigue than we should have. And again, that gave us our first clue with Canute, and we'll talk about that more in just a minute. The second type of muscle are our smooth muscles. These muscles line the inside of our digestive tract. They line our blood vessels and line hollow organs like our bladders. And then the third type, cardiac muscle, our heart muscle, a specialized type of muscle tissue that is obviously so important to our lives. I've shared this with you the last time we spoke, but an average heart will beat 4.3 billion times during the course of our lifetimes and never have a day off or a moment's respite from having to do that work in order to help us be alive and to thrive. And so we're going to talk tonight about how we can nurture with good nutrition that heart muscle and all of the other types of our muscles in order to be able to do that living really well. So let's carry on. Our bodies utilize calcium in ways that we know about, and in ways that we don't. Of course, we know about the fact that our bones are made up of calcium. All of us as adults have about 1 kilo of calcium in our bodies, and 99.95% of that is carried in a matrix that is formed up as our bones and in our teeth, and it gives us structure and protection. That other little bit is moving around our bodies as free calcium, and our bodies use it as a signaling mechanism because it has this powerful double plus ionic charge that allows our systems to take advantage of that charge to send a signal from one part of the cell to the other, or down our nerves to cause different things to happen, to cause the work of the body to take place. Now, in order to be able to take advantage of that special character of calcium, that positive charge, we need to be able to move that calcium where it needs to be in the body to make those signals be relevant. And that happens with this special enzyme, calcium ATPase, that is the focus of ReStor Silver and ReStor Vital. There are two types of this enzyme. One is on the cell surface of every single cell in our bodies. Built into the cell membranes is a special form of this enzyme called plasma membrane calcium ATPase. And it's responsible for taking excess calcium that gets accumulated inside the cells and moving it back outside the cell so that it can be picked up by the bloodstream and moved where it needs to be. And the other type is called a circa form of calcium ATPase, and it lives inside our cells and helps move the calcium from one part of the cell into a storage vessel inside the cell, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We really just covered this information. I'll leave this up on the screen for a minute while I expand on that just a little bit. So in our muscles, there are specialized storage vesicles called sarcoplasmic. And the way a muscle contraction works is that a signal comes from the brain, travels down the nerve, utilizing calcium as part of that signaling process, reaches the synapse, and prompts the release of a ton of calcium ions out into the interior of the muscle fiber, which then hits receptor sites and causes the muscle fiber to contract. Now, if we don't have a next step, what happens is we just stay contracted. So in order for us to be functional as human beings, we've got to be able to cause that contraction to relax and then be able to reset the muscle fiber so that it can contract again. And that's what calcium ATPase does. So when we have a contraction, all of those calcium ions are on the receptor sites in the muscle fiber. When it's time to release that contraction, the calcium ATPase enzyme gathers up all of those calcium ions and puts them back inside that storage vesicle, and that causes that muscle contraction to relax and reloads the muscle fiber so that it can contract again. Now, If we have lots and lots of that calcium ATPase enzyme available to us, that means we can have lots of contraction and relaxation cycles before we ultimately fatigue. If we don't have many, then we fatigue pretty quickly. In Canute's case, when he was a wee small kid, he had such a small amount of calcium ATPase available to him that after 1 or 2 attempts at contractions, he would be completely fatigued and would have to wait for his little body to slowly make some more. So we began looking for a way to help create more of this enzyme in order to help him be able to have a better quality of life. We knew that we wanted to use a botanical ingredient as our base, and we began looking at 100 different plant-based ingredients that had some ability to stimulate the body to create more of this enzyme. When we finally narrowed it down to the top 6, we began doing studies to determine which one would be the very best, so that we could have a good quality and consistent dosing that we knew would consistently produce the results that we were after. And the botanic ingredient that we settled on, that we found to be the very best, was an extract of the jasmine flower called methyl jasmonate. And this is a molecule that the jasmine flower, the jasmine plant, produces in order to provide extra protection to itself, and so it stands to reason that it would be supportive, and it is that. It's very supportive to the human body. In addition to the key ingredient, we then set about to formulate a nice complex formula that would give us some additional benefits, support what the jasmine extract is doing, and also complement with some associated effects. And so we added a couple of amino acids, L-arginine and taurine, and then we used vegetable glycerin as our carrying agent because it has the nice ability to provide a little extra energy that the body can utilize during the absorption process. Many of you know L-arginine from NHT's great product, Allura. L-arginine is involved in the nitric oxide cycle, and when we talk a little bit more extensively about smooth muscles in a couple of minutes, we'll talk about how that nitric oxide cycle plays a critical role in smooth muscle migration. What we need to know, of course, about L-arginine is that it has many benefits with respect to muscle contraction and vasodilation. Taurine is a great support for both muscle and bone. And so those, in addition to what the jasmine extract gives us, really rounds out this formulation to give us a lot of great benefits. And we'll talk about how we can recognize what this great product is doing for us in our daily lives by consistently taking them. So let's talk about 4, and then we'll talk some about the newer research that's happening in just a couple of minutes. I mentioned that smooth muscle lines our bladders, and it also controls the outflow of the bladder. So there's a muscle called the detrusor that lines the body of the bladder, and then a sphincter that holds the bladder closed while it's filling up. When we have plenty of this calcium ATPase enzyme available to us, then there's lots of strength available, the ability to stay contracted by that external sphincter muscle. And so it's easy to hold the filling bladder all the while until it's convenient to go to the bathroom. At that point, that sphincter muscle relaxes comfortably, and the detrusor muscle begins to contract to empty the bladder out. Well, if we don't have enough of the calcium ATPase enzyme, then what can happen is that external sphincter can't hold the contraction like it's supposed to. We start experiencing urgency and frequency of the need to go to the bathroom. We have to get up and go to the bathroom more frequently through the night. And so that begins to impact on the quality of our sleep and the quality of our daytime activities. By improving the quality and the levels of calcium ATPase enzyme available to those specific muscles by supplementation, then we can anticipate that we'll begin first to notice that we don't have to go to the bathroom quite as often during the night, ultimately able to sleep through the night, ultimately able to return to just going to the bathroom whenever we need to and not because we have to during the day. I just mentioned sleep. I will say that there's this little bitty hormone producing organ in the very middle of our brains. It's about the size of a grain of rice, called the pineal gland. And we know that it is the primary producer of a hormone called melatonin, which is our primary sleep hormone, and melatonin is also involved in our immune system responses. And the calcium ATPase enzyme is intimately involved in the chemistry that causes the pineal gland to be able to produce that melatonin. And when there's not enough of it available, we have disrupted sleep patterns because we have disrupted production of the melatonin. So by improving our calcium ATPase levels, we get improved sleep, more profound rest throughout the night, wake up feeling refreshed and invigorated and ready to embrace our day. There's a specialized cell in our immune systems called the mast cell that is responsible for the appropriate inflammatory response in our bodies whenever we have a need for repair due to insult or injury. And so what those mast cells do, when calcium builds up inside the body of the mast cell to a certain point, those mast cells release these inflammatory molecules to help speed along the repair process in our bodies. And that's exactly the way it's supposed to work. Inflammation is a good thing when it is properly used and controlled. What happens, of course, is that when things get out of balance and we have too much inflammation in our bodies, then we start to experience aches and pains in our joints and our tissues that can become very problematic. We see it in lots of issues. Certainly the questions that I've been getting the last few nights in our other events have revolved some around chronic joint pain and also fibromyalgia. All of those types of things are in part a response or attributable to this mast cell degranulation and this steady rise in inflammation in our tissues due to toxicity in our environment and poor health habits on our own part, poor nutrition, smoking, excess drinking, that sort of thing. By improving the level of calcium ATPase enzyme in our bodies, we can reduce that level of tissue inflammation down to a lower level that gives us a greater opportunity to feel better and also to respond to these bigger insults that we have from time to time. I'm going to pause and just tell a story about my wife. When I first came to China to launch this product in 2011, I asked Janice to take the ReStor while I was gone, and that way I wouldn't be hovering over her watching for beneficial changes, and so she agreed to do that. A couple of weeks into my 6-week trip, she emailed me to say that she was just sleeping like a baby and that she was very, very happy about that. And then when I returned, she leapt into my arms and gave me a big hug and a kiss, and then jumped back and she said, "Look at this." And what she was showing me was a full range of motion, especially in her right thumb and forefinger, that she hadn't had when I left. She's a jeweler and metalsmith, and just had abused her hands so much that those fingers were sort of locked into that as a maximum extension. And the use of the ReStor for the 6-week period of time had restored that range of motion to her. And that's the kinds of things that we hear from lots of people who've been now using this product for a number of years. Finally, let's talk about muscle performance, and we're talking about skeletal muscle here. The regular use of ReStor in order to raise those calcium ATPase levels can produce greater individual contraction strength, produce greater endurance so that we're able to work or play longer, and reduce recovery time after exercise so that we're able to get back to playing or get back to working again efficiently and with greater ease, because we're able to relax more completely between contractions, and we're able to more fully utilize the capacity that is available to our skeletal muscles. I'm going to talk more about our heart muscle in just a little bit, so keep that in mind as falling under the muscle category. So how do we use this product? It's really very simple. There's a very nice flavor profile to the ReStor Silver because of the jasmine extract and because of the vegetable glycerin. It has a nice sweet flavor to it. So most people just squirt 1 to 2 droppers full, 1 to 2 milliliters directly into their mouth. The dosage would be morning and evening. And if sweet is something that you don't particularly care for, then put it into 4 to 6 ounces of water and drink it that way. The one caveat about how you take this is you want to keep it at least 30 minutes away from your morning orange juice, because there's an enzyme in the orange juice that will neutralize the effectiveness of the jasmine extract. So just keep your morning dosing away from your orange juice, and that way your ReStor will be maximally effective. So a couple of years after we started the ReStor Silver, launched it with great success, and getting great feedback from our membership, primarily in China, because that's where we launched it, talking about the wonderful benefits that they were getting from using the product every day. But they wanted to talk about what more we could do for them in a couple of specific areas, that being the stressful lifestyles that they were living, and how we might add something in that would help them address that. And also, specifically in their case, because of their very competitive education system, might there be something that we could do to help their kids who were dealing with the stress of these heavy study schedules? And then also, help them just feel a little bit more energetic as they were engaging in these more pronouncedly stressful lifestyles. So we went back to the lab and began looking at ways to do just that. Wanted to find ingredients that would accomplish those things that they had requested, but also provide some additional important support. One of the things that we recognize is that more stressful lifestyles have a tendency to be coincidental with less quality nutrition, more eating on the go. And so we wanted to make sure that anything that we added also would provide some digestive support. And we also recognized that these more stressful lifestyles meant that we were under greater possibility of an immune system breakdown because of the load on our immune system. So so that was key in our consideration of new ingredients as well. What was born was the second product in the ReStor line called ReStor Vital, specifically focused on a more active lifestyle, whether that be a day in, day out lifestyle, or something that just the average person like you or me experienced on a periodic basis. And we think that it has been a phenomenal addition to the line, and we'll talk about specific things that you can anticipate when using it right now. Actually, not right now. I'm going to talk about some of the new research that has been taking place around calcium ATPase and what we're learning with this new research about how absolutely critical this enzyme is to health in ways that we just hadn't anticipated. Although, you know, theoretically it made good sense, but as we see it practically coming out in this research, it's just a great reminder of how important it is for us to supplement and support our bodies in ways that we can respond well to what all goes on in our modern lives. The two greatest killers of human beings in this modern world are heart attacks, heart-related diseases, and vascular-related strokes. And so we're going to talk for just a couple of minutes about how a plaque forms and what calcium ATPase does in helping to try to prevent that. And we're going to talk about our heart muscles performance as well. So I'll remind you that our blood vessels, whether arteries or veins, are the walls of those vessels are created in part with a smooth muscle. And so the role of that smooth muscle, certainly on the arterial side, is to be able to absorb the swell of blood as the heart squeezes out a nice big outflow of blood. Temporarily it swells to absorb that big bolus of outflow, and then comes back to its size. And that ability to be flexible and pliable to do that is directly responsible. The smooth muscle in the wall is directly responsible for that. Lining those arterial vessels is a very thin layer of mostly a single layer thickness called the endothelium. And that can be damaged in lots of ways. And whenever there's an insult to that little thin layer of the endothelium, any circulating cholesterol, LDL cholesterol in the bloodstream, is drawn to that injury site, and will infiltrate in and get in through that injury site and work its way in behind that endothelium. The endothelium sends out some signaling. Hey, I've got a problem. I need some repair help. I need it here quickly. And the body responds just as it's supposed to work through that. Oftentimes it's able to address that LDL cholesterol that's gotten in behind the endothelium, and everything is fine. When it doesn't get to respond well, we are talking about the beginning of the formation of what we know as plaque. One of the things that happens in that signaling process for repair help is that signals throughout the nearby tissue also will trigger and smooth muscle fibers to begin migrating over toward the site of that injury. Now that's because there's some proper signaling that takes place that utilizes that smooth cell migration, but this is not one of them. This is a problem when this begins to happen, and as the smooth muscle fibers migrate over to that area and encapsulate that LDL cholesterol, the smooth muscle fibers begin to transform themselves into some nasty looking thing called a sponge cell. And this is the beginning of a fatty streak. It's the beginning of this plaque formation. If that plaque forms up and gets large enough, then it can impede the flow of blood and cause problems that way. If one of those plaques breaks off and it's in an artery that feeds the blood supply to the heart, then we can have a cardiac event such as a heart attack, causing there to be poor or no blood supply to a part of the heart for a period of time, causing that tissue to die, creating a heart attack that can either severely impact us or kill us. That's a cardiovascular event with a plaque. That very same process can happen in the arteries that feed the brain, and if a plaque breaks off and causes a disruption in flow to the brain, then we have a stroke event that can wreak havoc or death. I mentioned the nitric oxide cycle and its role in relationship with smooth muscles. When we first get that signal to bring repair materials to that insult on the endothelium, as soon as the endothelium is repaired, there is another set of signals that comes from that endothelium that says, we don't need any more help, and stops that smooth muscle migration before it can get over there and cause a problem. That process is triggered by nitric oxide. And when the nitric oxide gets triggered to send that signal, it uses the calcium ATPase enzyme as part of the process to stop that smooth muscle fiber from migrating inappropriately in and creating all of those problems. When there is plenty of the calcium ATPase enzyme available, we can deal with lots of these temporary insults to the endothelium. We make the repair, everything goes great, and we don't have that chronic buildup of the plaque like we do when we don't have enough of the calcium ATPase enzyme. So it's one more reason to be so focused on making sure that we have enough of this enzyme available to us, is that it is supporting the systems that in our body are built in to keep us from having these heart attacks and these strokes. Okay, now I'm off to what ReStor Vital does for us. Boost physical and mental energy levels. We really designed this to help our bodies to be able to be focused on our tasks, stay on task, and have plenty of good cognitive function, and also to be able to work harder and play harder for that active lifestyle. In addition to the ReStor Silver formulation, so everything that's in the ReStor Silver is in ReStor Vital, we've added 3 additional important ingredients. And they are an extract of the ginger root called gingerol, a green tea extract called EGCG, and then this special sugar molecule called D-ribose. So green tea extract is included because it provides an ability to really zero in and focus on a project without getting us too hyper. Our cognitive function and mental acuity is nicely enhanced because of the green tea extract. ginger root powder, the gingerol, it is a tremendous digestive tract. It provides great antioxidant activity along with the green tea extract, and it is able to help the body to produce more calcium ATPase along a different path than the normal pathway that jasmine flower extract stimulates. This is a pathway that is more prevalent when we're under stress. So we really have done a beautiful job of covering the regular pathway for production of calcium ATPase and the stress-related pathway for calcium ATPase. Both the gingerol and the green tea extract are being researched extensively, both individually and used together for their anti-cancer properties. So it's this also provides some good nutritional support to aid and abet the body in dealing with those issues. Finally, the D-ribose molecule, just a spectacular little crystalline structure. It's a sugar structure that is in a form that can be used at the cellular level immediately as an extra energy source. So it provides some ability in athletic performance, and it's utilized by the mitochondria when it's making ATP, which is the energy molecule for the body as we commonly know it. And it is also integral in both DNA and RNA. So it's involved in the transcription process when we're creating new cells, and so we're feeding that process with good quality ingredients as well. So what do we expect that we'll experience when we take the ReStor Vital? Certainly improved focus, greater mental clarity. So whether you are an adult in the workplace or you're a student studying hard for that exam, you're going to see some nice support, feel and experience nice support from the ReStor Vital. As I mentioned, both the green tea extract and the gingerol provide tremendous boost for antioxidant protection because we're experiencing greater stresses in this modern lifestyle that we're living. And then improved athletic performance, or improved physical performance really of any nature, but it supports greater muscle endurance, greater strength, and greater recovery with that little additional boost of the D-ribose. The directions for use are exactly the same as with the ReStor Silver. It's 1 to 2 milliliters morning and evening. This has a more pungent flavor profile green tea. So if that's not something that you want to squirt straight in your mouth, then put it in a little bit of water and take it that way. You want to shake both of these products really well before you draw up the dropper full to use, and that will make sure that you're getting a good mixture of all of the ingredients. So often I get the question, well, Dr. Lyle, which one of these products is best for me? And my answer is the best way to make sure that you're getting the best coverage is to use them both. And the way that I do it, and the way that many of my patients do it, and many of the NHT members around the world do it, is that they use ReStor Vital in the morning because it has the ability to enhance focus and clarity, and then use the ReStor Silver at night when that need for greater focus is not there because you're going to be resting and sleeping. And I put both bottles right on my wash stand in my bathroom, right under my toothbrush, because I know I'm going to brush my teeth morning and night, and that's my reminder that I need to make sure that I take these products to help me make sure that I'm living the best life I can. there's a really exquisite theory of life in the Oriental medicine tradition called the root and branch theory. And in Western medicine, we largely have a branch system way of looking at things. We tend to be very narrowly focused on our diagnostic criteria. You come in with an ache in your forearm, we focus on what's going on in that arena and diagnose something and look for a solution that will cause those symptoms to go away. And that's incredibly wonderful in acute phase medicine. I've got lots of MD friends who tell me that they recognize that we have a great acute care medicine program and system in the West, but where we fall down is a good way of taking care of ourselves long term on these lifestyle types of disease processes that we experience. And so the root portion of this root and branch theory in Oriental medicine really, I think, addresses that so beautifully. So really what it says is that we may be experiencing something in our circulatory system, in our and something in our endocrine system, and something in our respiratory system. All of these different things happening in these different areas, and it's easy to see them as different things that need to be addressed differently. But it may very well be that if we look closely down at the root system that feeds our whole body and all 12 of our different bodily systems, that there may be some common cause down at the root level, that if we address and nourish and nurture that system at the root level, that all of these things happening in these separate systems up in our branches and our leaves can be resolved because we've resolved the issue in the root structure. ReStor Silver and ReStor Vital really are designed to be root system stimulator, root system nourishment that then have the effect of allowing us to see improvements at the branch level in different systems when we're really just feeding one set of products at the root level. This is powerful, powerful stuff. And I want you to really see how important it is to be able to address our health and well-being at this root level and create these beneficial changes in every single system in our bodies, because there are calcium ATPase enzymes at work for us in every single cell, in every tissue type of our bodies. So if we're feeding our body the nutrients that they need to be able to stimulate the production of this calcium ATPase enzyme that is happening and working in every cell in the body, we can't help but lift the health of every system and therefore our whole being and make it healthier and more alive. And I want you to know that there are a couple of other great products in the NHT line that fall into this same root level category, and you're familiar with both of them. Stem Renew is just a phenomenal product. We've been talking about signaling with calcium and calcium ATPase. Stem Renew really addresses signaling at a different area. We're talking about cell signaling as our new cells are being formed, whereas ReStor Silver and ReStor Vital are more involved in top quality cell signaling once our cells are fully formed and active and doing the work that they're designed to do. The third one is the great omega-3 product. I know that some of you had the opportunity to meet and hear Dr. Ben when he was here in December. Omega-3 addresses cell membrane structure and function so beautifully. So the membrane that surrounds every single cell of our body is this great protein and lipid combination structure that has all of these signaling molecules built into the structure. And the omega-3 plays a critical role in helping build that membrane in such a way that that signaling that is passing in and out of the cell and the raw materials that are coming into the cell to be transformed into something and then sent back out into the body to do the work that they need to do, so that all of that can happen really in the most optimal way. We need that great omega-3 to do that, and the omega-3 from NHT Global is just simply the best product on the market to feed our bodies what they need to be able to make those cell membranes. So it's phenomenal combination of products, these root level products, and Stem Renew, omega-3, and then of course the ReStor Silver and ReStor Vital form that foundation, form that root level foundational system to give you the optimal health that you're looking for. What I want to say is that when you do yourself the great benefit of feeding your root systems with what they need to be able to function optimally, then not only does your overall health improve, but it makes every single other wonderful thing that you put in your body, from the rocket salad that you eat to great nutritional supplements that you consume from NHT Global. It makes every single thing work better. It's absorbed better. It's transported to the cells better. It's received into the cells to be utilized. It can be utilized more efficiently because everything is working better. So you maximize the benefit of all of the other great supplements that you take by feeding that root system. That's essentially my presentation for this evening. I do want to say that my philosophy of life, my philosophy of care is so closely coincided with NHT's philosophy of only seeking out the best products and providing those great products to their members. It is a philosophy of relationship and how important relationships are. And I think if we nurture our relationships, if we take great care of ourselves and take great care of the people that we love, then the net effect is that it causes us to just glow from the inside out, and it just makes our lives open book that people will want to understand why we're looking so good and feeling so good, and that makes it really easy to talk with them about these great products. Thank you so much for spending a part of your evening with me.
My name is Janice Baldwin. I am the wife of Lyle Wilson, the creator of ReStor. I had been a skeptic about whether or not there was a single product that could do all of the things that he claimed that could be done with this product. Accordingly, he left a bottle for me when he went to China for the launch of ReStor with NHT. and asked me to take it without any input from him. I agreed to do so, and after about 2 weeks, I realized that I was sleeping like a teenager, that I was not waking up in the middle of the night to solve worldwide economic problems like I had been inclined to do. I have been a metalsmith and an artist my whole life and had literally destroyed my right hand as a result of my activities. Excuse me. My thumb and my first finger had gotten bent and swollen. I couldn't straighten them out, and I was unable to use them essentially. After approximately 4 weeks on the ReStor, I was able to straighten out my hands. The swelling went down, and I've been able to use them just like a normal person ever since. Thirdly, I was born into a really bad gene pool for heart problems. All 4 of my grandparents, both my parents, died of a heart attack. My younger brother has had 5 heart attacks, 11 stents, and 2 double bypass surgeries. And my 36-year-old son also has had a heart attack. Accordingly, I have been going to a cardiologist for about 20 years. After 8 months on the ReStor, I showed up at the cardiologist for my annual checkup. When the cardiologist came in to give me the results, he was flabbergasted because my test results were better than they had been 10 years before when I first got there. The only difference in my life during that time was that I was taking ReStor.
Okay, so we were just having a conversation around this lovely noontime meal with Dr. Isa Bittel, and I was just building on something that she said, that StemRenew is the architect in the NHT Global line that that does the design work on creating better cells. Omega-3 is the material that the artisans use to build better cell membranes. ReStor Silver and ReStor Vital are the master craftsmen who are enabling the cells to do the work that they do most beautifully, creating better income, better output for the cells so that the cells are operating at optimal efficiency.